What is up, YouTube? My name is Brandon Rogers. This channel is called Chili Dog Motorsports, and we are in my garage today with the little Grom Clone. Today we're going to address the spongy front forks, and we're going to be replacing the factory fork oil with some heavier weight, better quality fork oil. Stay tuned. We'll show you how to do it. So the premise of what we are doing today is we are going to be changing out this fork oil here in our fork. If we look at the whole fork as an assembly, they're really not that complicated. You got like an outer tube, an inner tube, a spring, a damping rod, and oil. When you hit bumps, the spring is going to absorb most of that impact, and this oil flowing through the orifices on your damping rod is going to dictate how that reaction happens, whether it's fast or slow. Now, if we think about it in simple terms, thicker oil is going to flow through these orifices slower, and thinner oil is going to flow through them faster. So if we take the thin oil out of our forks and replace it with thick oil, it's going to flow through there a little bit slower and give us a stiffer shock. And for today's project, you will need a ratchet wrench, a 10mm socket, a second ratchet wrench, a 14mm socket, a 17mm socket, a 7/8 wrench, a crescent wrench, a 6mm Allen wrench, and some kind of measuring device like a measuring cup. Now, to start things off, you are going to want to lift the front of the bike up somehow because we are going to be removing the front wheel and the forks entirely. So to accomplish this, we have put a couple hooks in the ceiling. We're going to use some ratchet straps at the handlebars to lift that up. So let's get started. All right. Be sure to get them tangled up. That's a key part of the process. There we go. So now we're just going to hook these to the hooks we put in the ceiling, and we're just going to lift the front of the bike up. Easy peasy, right? Right? Yeah, we'll go a little bit more. Yep. Nice. That's fucking great. So we are not doing that. Those are not structural. Oh, great. All right, well, never mind. We are going to be using this existing beam in my garage. Same concept, though. We're just going to use ratchet straps to lift it on up. Maybe. Hopefully this fucking beam doesn't fall. Excess strap. Ugh. Also, sorry in advance for the horrible angles of probably the rest of this entire video. Working with what we got here in my garage is tiny. So you get to see parts of the garage you've never seen before. Surprise, it's a washing machine. Get some of this up out of the way. That'll do. Oh. So yeah, lift your bike up. Don't use sketchy parts of your garage ceiling that you're gonna pull down. So now we got the bike hung. Let's start removing stuff. And so now that we have the bike up, let's start with the easy stuff. Let's remove this fender here. It's going to be two 10mm bolts on each side. Let's get those out of there. That bolt was very loose. When assembling your bike, be sure to tighten all the bolts. Can't believe we never lost that. Beginning to think none of my fender bolts are tight. Oh, I did forget to mention, if you do have, there's these one bolt on each side in the back, and there's probably a bracket attached to them as well. We'll need to get those off. Those will also be 10mm. So 3 bolts each side. Disregard what I said earlier. Get that little bracket off of there. And we should be able to remove our fender. There we go. Fender removed. Let's get ourselves a magnetic tray to put all our bolts in. And coming around to the other side of the bike, we are going to remove our brake caliper. It's going to be another 2 10mm bolts. Once we get that removed, we're going to want to zip tie that up out of the way somewhere. We don't really want to leave it dangling by its own cable there. So I just got some zip ties. We'll figure out somewhere to temporarily zip tie it to. But for now, just get the mounting bolts off there. Oops. Bang up your powder coating there. It also, it is also important to note, once this is off of here, do not pull your brake lever. You don't want to hyperextend the pistons in there and blow them out. So just like that, it should come off. Now, I'm going to find somewhere to zip tie this to. There's nowhere that looks great. Alright, I'm just going to set it on top of the engine. Be sure not to knock that off. And then once your fender and your brake caliper are removed, we go ahead, take the axle out, and get this wheel out of our way. Now, the bolt side of your axle is going to be a 14 millimeter, and the nut side of the axle is going to be a 17 millimeter. Why they do that to us, I don't know. It's kind of annoying. Head and get the nut out of there. It is important to note there is a spacer on your brake side. Just kind of remember that when we go to put it all back together. And then your speed sensor goes on the not brake side. Of course, the speed sensor doesn't want to come off. Come on, buddy. There we go. Well, then we'll just put the axle back through. Put the nut back on the axle. My spacer surprisingly didn't fall off during that. Great. Well, let's just get that out of the way. And now with everything on the lower end removed, we are going to go ahead and loosen the top tree clamp portion. We're just going to loosen it because we also want to break these caps free before we remove the forks entirely. So we're just going to loosen the top ones just to kind of reduce a little pressure there on the threads of the caps. And these are going to be a 6 millimeter Allen. It would be preferred to have one of those Allen sockets. Using a hex key kind of sucks, but it's all you got, does the trick. That's what I'm using, so we know it works. Get those loose, get the other side loose. And you're going to want to leave the bottom tree alone just for now, until we get these caps loosened up. But for that, we're just going to use a croissant wrench. It is. I don't think I have the right size wrench for these. Go ahead and get these loose. And it is a pain in the ass to loosen these after the forks are removed. So it's nice just to have them clamped up in the triple trees just for this. And with our caps loosened, we can go ahead and loosen the bottom tree clamps and get these fork tubes out of here. Oh, it's a key handle in there. Oh, about tight. There we go. I also prefer to have a Allen key socket, not a ratchet wrench. Just for time's sake, but Allen key, 14 handle, will do. That's a little bit cold, like swinging. This should be sufficiently loose. Go ahead and make sure this top one is loose. And your fork should just slide on out of there. It's kind of a bummer these are like powder coated or anodized black because it is going to scratch them up coming out of there. So yeah, get your forks out. We'll do the other side and then we'll meet you at the bench. And now with our forks removed from the bike, we can go ahead and take the caps off of the end and start extracting the delicious fork milk out of them. Well, now what we're going to want to do, take your handy croissant wrench, and let's get these caps off. Get a 7/8 wrench. There's a nut here. Get a wrench on that. Get your crescent wrench on top of there to get this cap completely off of there. Get a crescent wrench on the top. Whoop. Drop your fork. Threads on this are superb. We'll get our fork caps off. Now we need a container to drop everything in. Back down here. I'm just using a measuring cup. A graduated cylinder would be preferred because they are more precise in their measurement. But ideally, you just want something that's got milliliters on there. Now, each of these forks should contain 250 milliliters of fork oil. Whether they do or don't, that's questionable. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to drain all the fork oil into this measuring cup so we can see how much fork oil is in each fork. You just let it drain, and you start milking it. Just a simple, honest fork milker. Oh. You're going to want to pump it a few times, and then we are going to let these sit upside down for a little bit, and you're going to see why. I guess I should, for clarity purposes. We can see currently it's sitting just about 200 milliliters there, right? I got the milliliter side. Right about 200. We're going to let it sit upside down and see how much more comes out. So, and now these have been sitting for about 10-15 minutes, and you can see they are closer to that 250 mark. So you are going to want to let these sit upside down for a few minutes just to make sure we get all of the oil out. We are going to go ahead and put in, I'm just going to match the fluid level. So we're going to dump all this old oil out, put new oil in this container up almost to the 250 mark. And then we will fill these up, put the caps back on, put them back on the bike, and yeah. Go ahead and dump our old fork oil into a waste oil jug. Be sure to recycle this properly. Yeah, this stuff is like about as viscous as water. It's not very oily. Go ahead and dump that out. Wipe this out. Fill it back up with about the same amount of fluid that came out of the fork. And then fill the fork up. So now we are going to take some 20 weight fork oil. I will link this in the description. I just bought it on Amazon. It's pretty cheap. But we'll take 20 weight and we will fill this measuring cup back up to about the mark it was at. Could have made a Sharpie mark there. That would have been ideal. But we know it's somewhere between 200 and 250 milliliters. And we know from the factory these are supposed to have 250. That is the legitimate capacity. I'm going to go smack dab in the middle between 200 and 250. So probably about 225. Put that in, see how that does. Mostly go ahead and carefully pour this guy in. And do be careful, it's going to want to overflow a little. You got to get it like worked into the my mind's going blank. the thing that does the stuff. Ooh. Milk it a little bit. The damper, that's the word I was looking for. You got to get it worked into the damper a little bit. And there we go. Now with all that oil poured in there, we can get our cap screwed back on just to kind of protect our hand a little bit. We do need to pump the damper, get it pumped up. And you'll hear it gurgling, and you want to pump until it don't gurgle. You'll feel it will get stiffer too. You just want to get all the air out of there. Oops. That back. All right. I'm going to go wash my hands off because they're covered in oil. All right. Now we're just going to take our 7/8 wrench and our croissant wrench, get our cap tightened onto the damper. And then we will get the cap tightened into the fork tube. Maybe. There we go. And we'll get that as tight as we can now. We will remember to cinch them up once they're in the triple trees and we have a better clamp on them. We can really tighten that. We're going to go ahead and do the other side exactly the same. Then we'll meet you back at the bike and we will install these. And now that our forks are all full of new oil, we can go ahead and reinstall them the same way they came out. We will go ahead and feed the fork up in there. Oh, come on. Get on in there. There we go. get the fork in there, get the tops flush. Then we're going to go ahead, same as before, we're going to tighten the bottom clamp, and then we're going to tighten our cap, and then we can tighten the top clamp. Now with our bottom clamp tight, we can go ahead, tighten our top nut, our top cap there. Center down, and then we can tighten our top clamp. There we go. That side's all tightened up, cinched up. We're going to do the other side, and then we'll meet you back down at the bottom to reinstall all the other stuff. And now that we have both forks back in the bike, we can go ahead and put our wheel back on. There we go. Oh no, don't do that. There we go. Yeah. Speed switch. Turn our wrenches in the appropriate direction. Too tight. Still a little too tight. There we go. Yeah, and you don't want to like pinch that so tight your wheel doesn't spin. It's kind of crappy, but don't do that. And then coming back around to our brake side, our brake caliper down, and as long as you didn't touch the brake lever, it should slip right back on there. If you did touch the brake lever and compress the pads, you're going to have to get something in there to wedge the pads back apart. So just don't touch the lever. You're going to want these to be fairly tight too. You don't want that brake coming off there. So now we can get the fender back on. And now putting the fender back on the same way it came off. Get on two brackets, two major cables. These start to hold place. In there, this thing in there. Maybe. Sorry, I can't see it. Come on. There we go. These guys in there. I'm gonna go on our place. Is that really just over there? Where's the hell? Nice one. Let's get these gently cinched up. Get them all gently cinched up. Kind of double check your fitment because there is a lot of play in this fender. Make sure your wheel doesn't rub on it. Then go through, cinch them all up, and call it a day. Yeah, that is so much better, and that is how you change your fork oil on your Grom Clone. And I'd like to give a shout out to Pucho513 who says, "What's up, broski? Have you done your fork oil? Will you be making a video? Mine are mushy as hell." He then goes on to say, "Bro, patiently waiting." Just kidding. I had no problem making this video. I had a ton of fun doing it, and my bike feels so much better. And if you would like to see other stuff, let me know down in the comments. I am happy to make videos on things you guys want to see. We got more videos coming up soon on other stuff. Stay tuned for that. As always, if you liked what you saw in the video, we're going to link it down in the description. We appreciate each and every one of you watching our videos. We appreciate each and every one of you liking and subscribing. But I think it's about that time you get out of my garage. Go on and get out of here. What are you still doing here? Get out of my garage.